Hey YouTube, I got another Pokemon-based video for you. This one was inspired by the upcoming Metal deck and this Mega Metagross pack that we've got. And the heart and soul of the Metal deck right now is, of course, Bronzong. This guy, for those of you who aren't acquainted with him, he is 90 HP and has a 3 energy retreat cost. Kind of painful for a stage 1. But his ability Metal Links basically makes him like Electric was a couple of formats ago, where once per turn he can grab a metal energy from your grave and, well, your discard pile, and stick it on one of your benched Pokemon. So we're going to need a lot of retreating and switching around maybe to make sure that his ability to only pump up benched Pokemon, is something we can still work with without being able to power up the active Pokemon directly. He does have an attack for 60 damage for 3 energy, which, he can help power himself up for, but that's not a big deal. The object of the deck is going to be to get hopefully 2 of these 3 Bronzongs out on the field and just keep them on the bench as long as possible to power up your other Mons. We of course have 3 Bronzors to help support that, so that's 6 Pokemon right there. And when I think Metal Pokemon, I'm thinking Aegislash EX is probably one of the best ways to go. He's a 170 HP EX, he's got Psychic Resistance, which, with Mewtwo EX running around, that's handy, I guess. His fire weakness, not as big a deal because Donphan has just nerfed Pyroar so badly that for the most part we don't have to worry about him anymore. Mighty Shield is an amazing ability, it's why I want to run 2 of this guy. It just blocks all damage from Pokemon carrying special energies, and there's plenty of special energy running around. So it's very hard for a lot of decks to kind of get around this. It makes their job harder, which buys you time, which lets you set up, and this deck can hit pretty hard. Slash Blast is kind of like a Keldeo attack. It's 40 base, and then for every metal energy it gets you an extra 20, so if you give him 3 metals, which is kind of the plan, he hits for 100 without any support, which means it's 200 damage in 2 turns, which is easily KO on just about anybody. Anybody who's not Mega, and it's easy enough to make that happen. So, our next Pokemon, Dialga EX, he's 180, which is quite handsome, and he's got the usual sort of mid-range retreat, and his attacks, of course, are the key part here. He can prevent EXs from being able to attack and hit for 60 on his first attack, which is nice, but there are lots of ways around that for your opponent, so that's not really so crucial. What's the big attraction to him, obviously, is that he can hit for 150 with this attack. It's 4 energy for 150, but 150 with a muscle band or some such thing could easily be a KO on lots of things, but normally that discard 2 energy would be quite the impairment, but of course with 2 Bronzongs helping him, or 1 Bronzong in your normal energy attachment, you can just power this guy up every turn. So he can hit for 150 or even 170 per turn. And with that 180, he can take some punishment too. So this guy's definitely a heavy hitter. Like I say, this deck's full of heavy hitters. Next up we have Cobalion EX. He's a good early game Mon, which is very nice. Has a healthy HP. Righteous Edge helps punish those special energy decks a lot. Kind of balance using him in Aegislash for that very reason. But the other attraction to this guy is Steel Bullet. His ability to just snipe anything with Safeguard in one shot, and with a Muscle Band, he can take out any Pyroars you might encounter in one shot as well. Even though they can respond and one-hit KO him back, still, it's harder for them to get those up, and Aegislash impairs them because of DCE, which makes them slower. They have to rely more on their blacksmiths. It buys you some turns. So he's definitely a good guy to have around in early. And like I say, if Aegislash is nowhere to be found, you can always rely on Righteous Edge. He's a very good early game Pokemon. But of course, we can talk about this Metagross box, which came with this awesome Mega Metagross mat, if we didn't actually run the guy. I'm just running 1-in-1 for a couple of reasons. One, the box set is pretty expensive. You're going to pay like $40–50 right now for it. And you can pay a little less online, obviously, but then you're paying the shipping, so it really comes full circle anyway. You can buy the promos separately, but you might as well get the packs and the playmats. The playmat's pretty cool. So, anyway, just because it's going to be challenging for a lot of people to get multiples, I'm just going to leave it at this. Plus, they're kind of slow to set up. There's no Spirit Link. I'm actually happy running a 1-1 line, because you don't necessarily need the Mega. Although, that said, his attack is quite nice, but we'll get to that in a second. This guy, he's basically just the means to get to the big guy. He's 180, which is nice. His retreat cost is quite heavy. I wouldn't even bother paying it most of the time, obviously, even with energy recursion. His magnetic laser just is meant to pump him up. I guess if you had to retreat somebody or do something weird, he can help power himself up. It's not completely worthless, but obviously it doesn't deal much damage for what it's doing, just getting metal energy from one of your benched and put it onto him. I guess that works with Bronzong's ability to pump a benched Pokemon in a pinch, but it still feels kind of underwhelming, to be sure. And this is 4 energy, but it's a coin toss relying attack. It does an average of 100 damage, but I really hate relying on coin tosses because for all the times they'll be good to you, they will just as equally be bad to you. And I don't like relying on luck when I can rely on something more solid, something that's going to actually guarantee me a KO. Mega Metagross, he will cost you a turn, but that's okay because this deck's a little slow on the uptake anyway, so you can actually Mega pretty early in the game and in a lot of ways not lose anything. 220 is solid enough. That means nobody's one-hit KOing him pretty much. His retreat, doesn't matter if he goes active, he shouldn't be coming back anyway. Gatling Slug, it's 130 base for 4 colorless, and then he gets an extra 10 damage for every metal energy on him, which sounds a little underwhelming next to Aegis Slash until you realize that this guy, with his minimum investment of 4 metal energies, which is easy with Bronzong, is 170. So even without Muscle Band or any extra energies, he's already KOing most EXs in one shot. And this guy, obviously, you can put one more metal or a muscle on him, and he starts one-hit KOing everything. So this guy can very quickly put your opponent in a bad position. Lysander can make your opponent's life hard too. In some matchups, he's going to be too slow, or you might not want him, but we've got the support to go get him, so it's not really a problem to run the 1/1 line. It's fine, and of course he can ignore Pyro's ability too. We are running Heatran as another way around Safeguard, and his attacks aren't bad, all things considered. He only coughs up 1 prize, so you can chump block with him if you need to. With a Stadium out, he deals 80, and most people are running Stadiums now, so that's fine. And then he deals 130 for 4, which is, not bad, not great, but not bad either. Once again, your ability to rush energy makes him okay in this deck, and he only pitches 1 energy for it, so, he does alright. His retreat's 3, but it doesn't matter. He probably won't be around long enough for that to matter. And we do run 2 other Pokemon who aren't metal. We run Mewtwo EX for all the obvious reasons. We power up energies. This guy can take things out that have a lot of energy that are trying to one-shot us back. He's just a good thing you can puke energy onto. I mean, it's as simple as that. And he's not metal, which can give us a little bit of help in certain matchups. And last but not least, we are, of course, running Keldeo EX, who gets around all those hefty retreat costs and the fact that we can only power things up on our bench by getting float stones and then rushing in, letting us power up, and then free treating with float stone, and then they come up, and so on and so forth. We could attack with them on fire types, but since the main fire type thing we're scared of is probably going to be named Pyroar, you can't hurt it because you're a basic. But Charizard EX is a one-shot for us, because that's a double colorless. We do run a couple of double colorless. This is 1 metal energy, we can hit for 50, doubles to 100. Okay, so it's not a one-shot. Well, it's a dire hope. I really just wanted it to deal 100 base, but no. So that's kind of what we would call a desperation tactic. Sorry, Keldeo, you're pretty much all utility. Don't power him up unless you're pretty desperate or just have absolutely nothing better to do with your time. You'll always have something better to do with your time. So that's 16 Pokemon, which is a little hefty for us, but we're running 14 supporters to help power through. We're, of course, running 4 Juniper. Number 1, it draws you 7 cards, so, of course, you're going to run it in pretty much any deck. But because it also discards your hand, that's very good for us because it stuffs your discard pile full of energies, so it's just even better for us. We're running 3 Ns, because this deck's quite slow, so N's going to be very good for us, but we do have some other more reliable late-game draws as well, so I'm not going to 4 Ns in this case. You'll find that I rarely go to 4 Ns, so that's, that all works out for us. Next, we are running 1 Colress. We're going to fill our bench quite a bit because we have to get those Bronzongs out, so Colress will be a lot more reliable draw power, and of course he's also a VS Seeker, a Versus Seeker target as well. We're running 1 copy of Shauna. It seems a little unusual, but with Versus Seekers around and it's a little better early game, it's a nice alternative to Colress in some matchups, especially if things aren't going so hot and your bench is not too full. She can be a very welcome sight. So we are taking the 1 Shauna here. It's just a little more draw power. It's not quite as situational as N and Colress can be. We're running 2 Skylas in this deck, just because we have so many other ways to get stuff and that we want to get stuff. The slowdown of using your supporter for Skyla just to go get something is, in this deck, a little less welcome. But still quite good overall, so we're still running it. We're running 2 Pokemon fan clubs. Just because we are so needing of our basics, we are going to get them around, and there are lots of 1-of and 2-ofs that we can get, so we can use these to tailor-make our offensive for the game, early game. We can use this to go get a Bronzor and go get our Keldeo, or we can go get, we've already got our Bronzor set, we can get Keldeo and save the Steel-type attacker of choice to power up. So these are quite nice. In late game, they might be able to facilitate a recovery, so that's not bad. And we are running kind of our obligatory 1 Lysander for Versus Seeker. just to make sure we can control the field late game, and especially with Mega Metagross, obviously he loves the ability to pull up the EX target for that one-shot knockout. So, definitely going to do that. We're only running 17 items, which is a little low by my standards, but it makes sense. We got 2 muscle bands just for powering up. We like our float stones quite a bit, so we're only running the 2 muscles, but a lot of these Pokemon 2-hit KO without it, and don't exactly 1-hit KO with it. So this is only for a few choice Pokemon to get some power-ups and enable a few KOs, so don't play them willy-nilly. We're running 2 float stones. Mainly you just put 1 on Keldeo and you should be good to go. Don't play it until you absolutely need it for the switching round, obviously, though, because otherwise Sterling Megaphone's going to make your life bad. We're running 2 switches, because we've got so many heavy retreats and Keldeo's not always going to be around, and status can be a problem if somehow Keldeo gets like Lysander and status or something like that. So we're definitely running those just to make life facilitate things, just make sure everything goes smoothly. We got 2 Ultra Balls. Discarding things is good, getting Mons is good. This can also get things that are not basic, so it's got a little bit of versatility. We're running 1 Evo Soda, because this is a good Skyla target. It's basically something we can go get Mega Metagross with, or we can go get a Bronzong, obviously, and power up. So it's just, it's a search that's a little faster and more efficient. We are running Steel Shelter times 2, mainly because we don't need Steel Shelter, really. We just have it around. We have it for the sake of having it. Basically, it's to remove your opponent's stadiums and get a beneficial effect. But don't stress yourself trying to get it into play, because unless your opponent really heavily relies on status, it's just not worth it. It's nice to mention, though, that Steel Shelter protects your Pokemon. They don't need Steel Energies on them. They just need to be Steel-type Pokemon. So it's a pretty cool stadium. We've also got Professor's Letter to pick up those Steel Energies, or Metal Energies, or whatever you want to call them. Quite good support, and the fun thing in this deck is, because of the Bronzongs, you can actually just Professor's Letter, get the 2 Metal Energy, and then Juniper your hand away just to ditch them so your Bronzongs can put them onto stuff. Now, obviously, you're going to use the manual attachment if you need to, but if you've got the setup with the Bronzongs, that can be a really cool play with this card, and it thins your deck out, which is nice to improve your statistics for drawing other things. Running 2 Versus Seekers. It's an amazing card, and it's very good, and you would want to run more, except for the fact that obviously early game, it's a lot less utilitarian because you don't have those supporters in there necessarily. So we are just running 2. It's a lot of late game power, that's what it is. We're running 1 Max Potion. If I'd had the room, I definitely would have run a second. But because we can recur our energy so easily, Max Potion is amazing, and if you're forced to retreat out by paying a hefty retreat cost, you won't have much energy left on you anyway. So Max Potion in many ways will just be free, complete recovery, which will make your Pokemon a little less vulnerable to your opponent Lysandering it up for a quick KO later. So this is definitely a very good late game Skyla target, or just to top tech at some point and mess with your opponent. Very solid card. And we are running Startling Megaphone. In some matchups, this is going to seem kind of pointless, and you can easily discard it. But anytime Garbodor is around, that can be very disruptive. And the ability to turn its ability off for at least 1 turn in order to make sure that you can set off your Bronzongs and pump somebody up is pretty essential. So we've got to run at least this 1 Megaphone for that reason. And last but not least, of course, our ace spec is going to be Computer Search, because we are a pretty setup heavy deck, so we definitely want to make sure that we get what we need, and we get it when we want it, when we need it, and Computer Search helps facilitate that, as it can get just any old thing we want. And of course, discarding cards as a cost is excellent in our deck. We run 13 energy. 2 of them are double colorless, because this can actually make some of our attacks go a little faster. Can make Aegislash attack a little faster in the early game. Mega Metagross can use it if he needs to. Keldeo can use it. Mewtwo EX likes it. If they get hammered off or something, it's not a big deal. There are only 2 special energies, but they're basically here for when Bronzong isn't quite doing his job, or Mewtwo EX wants a little bit of a boost. So we are running that. And here we got all these lovely metal energies. We are, of course, running 11, and these are all basic, and they're all targets for Bronzong. Of course, you can manually attach them too. But we are running 11 energies for them, and they just keep cycling from the yard and cycling and cycling. So in a lot of ways, it's like you get 3 energy attachments per turn. Because remember, we're trying to get 2 Bronzongs up and going. So anyway, that is the Bronzong Metal deck. And until next time, like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll be bringing you more Pokemon and even a little bit of Magic content in the future. Have a good one.